When you're looking for your 100 baggers or your 10 baggers, how do you go about that kind of that issue?
Yeah, there are two different frameworks that one can employ. So a simple way to get a 100 bagger, one could get a 100 bagger on a company that is never going to grow by buying it at 1% of liquidation value. Right. So if something is worth $1 billion and you were able to buy it for 10 million, and you were pretty confident that the $1 billion value would not go down, you might have yourself a 100 bagger. And I'm not trying to be facetious, but I just want to point out that Charlie Munger says that the greatest investing mistake of his life was a friendly broker called him in 1977, and offered him 300 shares of an obscure pink sheets company called Belridge Oil, which had a very large oil field in Bakersfield, California. And Charlie was familiar with this company. It was very thinly traded. There wasn't much disclosure, but he knew that at the price he was being offered those shares, at that time, I think the market cap of the company was something like $120 million or something. And the dividend yield was like 15%. It was very cheap. And Charlie said that without even doing much of an analysis, you knew that you were buying it for 1/5 or 1/10 or less of what the actual underlying assets were worth. And it was quite a remarkable field, and they owned the land. It wasn't a lease, and they owned everything underground. And so he bought the 300 shares at $115 a share that were offered. And then 2 days later, the broker called him back and offered him another 1,500 shares of Belridge Oil, again at the same price. This time, Charlie didn't have the cash handy, and he would have had to sell something to buy Belridge. And he should have sold, because whatever else he owned in his portfolio was not a 20-cent dollar or something. It was not that cheap. But it required him to sell something and then raise the money and then buy. And he called the broker back and declined. And he said that, so 2 years later, this 100 million market cap company was bought by Shell Oil for $3.5 billion. And it was like 30x or something, 120 million or something. So it was a 30x in 2 years. And at that time in 79, Berkshire Hathaway was trading at about $300 a share or something, which is now approaching $500,000 a share. So if you think about Charlie's 30-odd thousand he put in, it became $1 million in 2 years. And then it was another probably more than 1,000x, more 1,500 or 2,000x from there was the journey from Berkshire. So that million became something like $1.5 billion today. So the 30,000 in effect became $1.5 billion, 35,000. The 1,500 shares that he took a pass on would be worth something like $7.5 billion today, which I think exceeds his total net worth today. And so this is the kind of like I would say, or what would I call it? I would say it's the cross connect, where you take the first company and you get a 30x. And then you take the second company, and in his case, he got a 1,500x. So you end up with 45,000x, some crazy number like that. And when well past 100x, we're not in Kansas anymore. And that was now the second company that he invested in, Berkshire Hathaway, was a great growing business. And that generated a lot of the returns because of the growth. Recently, in 2019, I found my Belridge Oil, which I thought would never happen to me, but I know God loves me. And so in 2019, I found this company in Turkey, which was basically trading at 3% of liquidation value, very similar to Belridge. And unlike Belridge, or maybe not quite unlike, because Belridge eventually, I think Shell pulled out something like 40-50 billion of oil from that oil field, and it's still flowing today. But this company in Turkey, not only was it a 3-cent dollar bill, it's growing its value. And in fact, in the last 3 years, it may have doubled its value. I was buying something with a market cap of 20 million that was probably worth at least 600 or 700 million. It's probably worth something like at least $1.5 billion today. And it's going to keep going. So I may not need to do a cross connect. All I may need to do, which is very difficult to do, is do nothing for a very long period of time. Like Rip Van Winkle, just go to sleep. So I could either go to sleep for 20 years or I could spend 20 years talking to the wonderful students at LSE. So I hope you will invite me back, because I need something to do for 20 years, because I've literally got nothing to do now. I just have to twiddle my thumbs and make sure there's no sell orders placed. And so one way you can get the 100Xs is, and take a step back, there's 50,000 or so publicly traded companies around the planet. All their prices are set in a auction-driven format, like horse racing, the pari-mutuel system. So the way prices are set on the New York Stock Exchange, the way the odds are determined on the race course are identical. Basically, it's the buyers and sellers that set the price. And because of the auction-driven nature of the market, so if we have a private company, he has a gas station, they want to sell the station, they want to sell their petrol station, you're generally going to have intelligent buyers facing an intelligent seller, and you'll come up with some price that will be close to the actual value of the gas station. But when you have auction-driven markets, you have a lot of undershooting and overshooting that happens all the time. In 2022, we saw a lot of overshooting, right? A lot of high flyers, a lot of great businesses got really, a year ago, for whatever reason, these auction participants gave Facebook/Meta Labs a certain valuation. And then by the end of the year, they had taken it out back and shot it. The same business, not much has changed. But in the course of a year, there was a dramatic change in valuation. And if Meta had been a private company and they tried to sell themselves a year ago, and they were trying to sell themselves today, the delta may not be anywhere near the way it is in the equity market. So when we see the undershooting of securities, that gives us some possibilities. And then you might say that this is so hard, 50,000 stocks. So Munger would say, when you say, oh, this is so much work and this and that, Munger's answer would be, why should it be easy to get rich? Why should it be so easy for you to find the 3-cent dollar bill? But what I'm here to tell you is the 3-cent or 2-cent or 1-cent dollar bill is sitting there. It's there today, it's there tomorrow, it's there 5 years from now. The only question is, how determined are you to find it? And how many pages are you willing to flip? How many rocks are you willing to turn over? And like this company in Turkey, it's like one and done. I don't think God loves me so much that I'm going to find another one. But I still keep looking. I'm still hunting. One and done is perfectly fine with me. It's better than zero and done. So all of you are really young. You're really smart. You have a lot of tools and resources to look up all of these companies. Start with the A's, or maybe it might be better to start with the Z's, because the stuff is the good stuff in the back. And all the best. The second approach is where you identify a great compounder that, because of people not willing to look at the right time horizon, then you can look around the corner. You could pay what would be either a reasonable or even an expensive looking price and end up with a great result. So if we have a crystal ball that can tell us what a company might look like 50 years from now, 30 years from now, then, we could buy something at $1 billion market cap and it might become 200 billion. And for me personally, that is a lot harder game to learn and play. I would like to do that. But so I'm open to both games. I think for me personally, the first game might be a tad easier. And because we have these auction-driven markets and because people vacillate between fear and greed, we can get there.
Multibaggers exist in every market and every cycle. Our job as investors is to find them. And that's what Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, and Mohnish Pabrai have done throughout their careers. Extraordinary returns rarely come from waiting for stock dips. They come from relentless research, patience, and conviction. The efforts you put into researching for great businesses matters far more than hoping someone hands you a 100x opportunity.